anything you write in that key can be transposed later into some other key. So imagine some song, like one of the greatest songs ever written, like Yesterday by the Beatles. Imagine if Yesterday, instead of being written in F major, were written in C major. Would it really be that much different? Would it be any less amazing of a song? No, it would be every bit as amazing. In fact, you could have just transposed the original, piece into F major if it were written in another key, and it would be the same thing. And you can leave that to other people to do. Now there are only 7 chords to deal with when you're playing in one particular key. Now you can still go out and use other chords from other keys, but the reason I say there are only 7 chords is because these 7 chords are what are called diatonic to that key, which means they're generally going to sound good together. So they're like a safe set of chords that you can base your song around. Now to play a chord, you're going to form what's called a triad. So if you take your right hand on the piano keyboard and put your thumb on what's called the root of the chord and move up from there with your middle finger 2 keys up and staying on the white keys, and then your pinky 2 keys up from your middle finger, you have a triad. Now you can move this up and down, and whatever key your thumb is on, that is the name of that chord. And depending on which one it is, it'll be a major, a minor, or diminished. You won't find any augmenteds. Now, the piano is the best tool for understanding chords. So if all you have is a guitar, a lot of great songs have been written on guitar, but you'll be facing a little bit of a more difficult challenge trying to understand the fundamentals of music theory if all you have at your disposal is a guitar. So I would recommend trying to get some time on a keyboard. So these Roman numerals here, these are generally how chords are expressed in songwriting when they're not expressed by their actual chord names. But I think this system is actually better. Now, so number 1 here, there's an uppercase I. That means it's major. So if you put your thumb on the C, that's going to form a C major. Number 2, this is a lowercase ii. That means it's minor. Whenever it's lowercase, it means it's minor. So that's a D. If you're working up from C, the D is a D minor. So you move up again. The third one, III, or 3, lowercase also, that's a E minor. So you move up again. Number 4, notice that's uppercase, so that's major. That's an F major. Next one up, a G major. Next one up, A minor, the VI, it's lowercase, A minor. And then the next one up, notice the little symbol after that. Usually it's a little circle, doesn't really matter, but that's showing you that it's actually a diminished chord. So the B, you're almost back up to C again. The B is B diminished. And that's probably the rarest chord that you'll encounter when you're writing music or songs, is the diminished chord, but it is in there. Hello. There it goes. So chord progressions. How do you put these chords together in a way that they sound good? Well, there's a really common set of chords, ultra common, that is 1, 4, 5. And these chords, with these 3 chords, a very, very large percentage of songs that you have heard have only these 3 chords in them. Like literally, these are the only chords in the songs. This would include most of the campfire songs you've ever heard. Things like "Oh My Darling Clementine," that kind of stuff. To blues, rock, and pretty much everything by Elvis used just these 3 chords. It's unbelievable how much you can do with just these 3 chords. So this is all the more reason why I think people should not be deterred by a lack of music theory understanding, because all you need is 3 chords, and you can make a name for yourself with 3 chords. Other types of chord progressions include the circle progression, This is more often a music theory tool, but people write songs based on the circle progression. Basically, you start on a particular key. Say you start on the tonic or C major in this case, the C key, and you can move up in increments of 4 or down, in increments of 5 or whatever you have to do to traverse, all the way through all of the keys that are in that, all the notes that are in that key, all the chords that are in that key, and back to where you originally started. And it's actually a pretty cool little progression, and I'm sure that that a million different songs could be written with that progression. Now, what is a modulation? Well, modulation is when you go outside of the key that you're in, and you explore chords that are in other keys. And it's quite common to have a modulation. A lot of Beatles songs, and I keep going back to the Beatles, but I mean, I think they are one of the best examples you can think of masters of songwriting. Uh, they they use modulations in most of their songs. Now, when in doubt, steal. Well, you're probably saying, how can I get away with stealing somebody else's chord progression? I would get sued or something. That's not true, actually. Uh, as I showed you here with the first chord progression, 1, 4, 5, you're not going to get sued for stealing that. In fact, the courts have consistently agreed that there really is no way to copyright a chord progression because chord progressions are they're so ubiquitous, they're so broad, and they're so the same progressions get used for so many songs that it would just be impossible to try to come up with some system for determining who originated the progression. So the only things that are copyrighted are the melody and the lyrics. So that's something that you might want to look into. You can steal someone's chord progression. You could steal a Beatles chord progression, write your own words and lyrics. I mean your own lyrics and melody on top of it, and call it your own song, and it would be your own song from a legal standpoint. Um, so melody, I almost want to say you have it or you don't. That wouldn't be terribly helpful. So I'm going to try to actually help you write a melody, even though this is a very personal thing, and whether it comes out the way you want it to or not is entirely up to you. And if you started with, I start with chord progressions and I proceed onward from there usually. Some people start with melody, some people start with lyrics. However you want to do it is up to you. But it should be, a melody should flow. And everyone wants to write a catchy melody. In my opinion, catchy is the same thing as saying easy to sing. If the melody is kind of all over the place and it bounces around, it's probably not going to be very catchy. So just keep that in mind. It has to fit with the chords. So it does. The notes shouldn't clash. They should flow together with the notes that are in the chords. And then, generally speaking, you should avoid large skips. Like, in other words, just jumping from a low note up to a high note. And of course, sometimes it can be dramatic to do this, and sometimes that's a good thing. But throughout the entire piece, probably not. For most of the piece, you probably want to have the melody kind of just going up and down gradually.